Ja, då går vi över till tema 3. Jag heter Cecilia Bjursell och är centrumledare för Nationellt centrum för livslångt lärande som finns här i Jönköping på högskolan. Och förra året så var temat för konferensen När är man gammal? Och vi fick se en ganska underhållande film där man började fråga dagisbarn som sa att man är gammal när man är 18 och så fortsatte man uppåt. Och det här skjuts ju som vi har hört hela tiden framför oss. Ingen vill säga att man tillhör gruppen äldre eller multisjuka, precis som Johanna avslutar med här. Och det är ju inte så att man blir gammal den dag man fyller 65 år. Vi är alla på väg i samma riktning. Vi har kommit lite olika långt på vägen. Då det gäller arbetslivet och om man pratar äldre i arbetslivet så startar det här ganska tidigt. Inledningsvis hörde vi att man ska vara på topp vid mellan 30 och 40 år. Och sen är det ju så att det kan hända tidigare också, men sen börjar till exempel kvinnor åldersdiskrimineras på det sättet att man kanske inte får kompetensutveckling. Män i tekniska yrken kan diskrimineras eftersom ny teknik förknippas med unga. Och vi utesluts genom den här diskrimineringen. Och det här är inte bra, för arbetet är något som stimulerar oss väldigt mycket om det fungerar väl. Och därför är det väldigt intressant att fortsätta att fördjupa sig i den här frågan. Vi har här i Jönköping något som heter Seniordoktoranderna. Några av er sitter här idag. En forskningscirkel där vi har gjort en studie av betydelsen av arbete och lärande efter pensioneringen. Och de två viktigaste motiven till att fortsätta arbeta och eller lära sig, det vill säga delta i någon utbildningsaktivitet, är att hålla sig aktiv faktiskt. Och den andra är att träffa andra människor. Att aktivera sig och att vara social. Först på tredje plats kommer motiv som har med själva uppgiften att göra. Och att delta i arbete och lärande är alltså intressant på många olika sätt. Och det pågår ju diskussioner om hur vi ska delta längre i arbetslivet. Och där kommer ju lärandet in, för det kommer förmodligen krävas olika former av ombildning och kompetensutveckling för att kunna delta på alternativa sätt framöver. Nu under eftermiddagen, det som är kvar av den i det här tema 3, så kommer vi att börja med en föreläsning av professor Juhani Ilmarinen. Sen blir det paus för fika och man kan passa på lite, gå ut och titta också på material, posters och liknande under fikan. Vi kommer också att visa en film om ytterligare ett spännande projekt som pågår. Efter det kommer vi få lyssna till en föreläsning av Ann-Carin Boström om generationsöverskridande lärande. Sen kommer Henrik Ennert och talar om Smålands blå zoner. Det finns ju en zon här i Småland där man lever väldigt länge. Åldrandets gåta. Så det kommer vi tillbaka till senare också. Ett panelsamtal följer på det och sen kommer vi att blicka framåt innan vi avrundar för mingel i eftermiddag. Men först så vill jag alltså bjuda upp professor Juhani Ilmarinen som har jobbat på Finnish Institute of Occupational Health och driver Juhani Ilmarinen Consulting. Jag kommer att byta till engelska nu, för Juhani vill hellre hålla sitt föredrag på engelska. Så just den här föreläsningen kommer vi att köra på engelska. Please, Mr. Ilmarinen.
Thank you.
Welcome. Professor Ilmarinen has more than 500 publications on occupational health, work physiology, workability, and aging. He has published 8 books, and among them a handbook on age management called Towards the Longer Work Life. And you work with the tension between the retirement of the baby boomers and the demands to lengthen work careers by a few years, that we not only see in Sweden, Finland, but in Europe and in other countries as well. And you pose some interesting questions on this area. How should older and experienced workers and employees be motivated to continue to work after the age of retirement? And what factors could motivate work organizations to keep experienced and competent older workers? And how can we promote a status of all generations working together? Maybe we'll get some answers today on these questions. Please, Mr. Ilmarinen.
Okay, thank you. So good afternoon. Sorry that I will speak English. I have been training the whole day Swedish again, but I am not competent enough. But I think English is better than Finnish. If you agree, we can go on with English, right? First of all, I would like to thank warmly Kenneth Abrahamson and Svante Hultman. They made my trip possible here. And I'm very pleased what I have learned so far, dealing with your approach to solve one of the hugest challenges what we have in front of us. So I have been working in the Finnish Institute of Occupational Health about 40 years, and now I have one-man institute. I must say it's much easier to handle without any bureaucracy. So I'm doing exactly the same, but my will is now to convert the scientific information into the practice, because that's what I'm missing. We have talking today already the need of implementation. We have a huge amount of information about aging, but we have few people who are really dedicated to convert the information into the practice. So maybe that is an important task. I believe it is. So I'm working beside Finland now in several countries. In all those countries, it's the same question: how we can build up a better and longer work lives. It's the same story in Australia, same story in Austria, in Sweden, in Finland. Recently, I wrote a report for the Swedish Retirement Committee. They wanted to ask to know what would be my recommendation for Sweden, what should be done. So there are some publications and also the report for the government. And Kenneth, do have it if you have interest. You can also download it from the internet. Okay. So I would like to start from 1980s, because that was the turning point in Finland. We recognized that the huge baby boom generations will be older and older. And it was quite easy to predict how old they will be at 2000 and 2010. We recognized that Finland has the oldest workforce in the whole European Union, because we had a very high peak of the baby boomers after the Second World War. Therefore, we understood what statistics and demographics mean for us, and the Finnish Institute of Occupational Health said, okay, it's our task to get the facts and also solutions for the baby boomers. Therefore, we started a longitudinal study in 1981, and as you can see, it ended 2009, 28 years. We followed same people, 6,500 people in different jobs. So that was the program we learned the most. What does it mean that we are growing older and we should be working? So our results awake the social partners, because we showed that workability, that was a new concept we developed, workability will decline by age if no actions will be made. So working alone does not prevent your workability from declining. Something has to be done. And therefore they agreed, okay, this is now our common tasks, and today we have this agreement in the Finnish Acts in Occupational Health Act and Occupational Safety Act. Finland is the only country in the world where we have that in the legislative base to promote the workability. So therefore, we were able then to create the FinAge Respect for the Aging research program from 1990 to 1996 with 20 different programs there inside. So we wanted to show that we can do it in the practice, in the companies, in the public sector, and also in the private sector. So then the cabinet waked up and said, good heaven's sake, we must have something similar for the whole Finland. And we had a cabinet committee for 1 year and made some 56 different recommendations to be made. And that was the start when we created the Finnish National Program of Aging Workers, FinPAV, lasted 5 years. So far, Finland seems to be the only country in the whole world who has run out a national program. Sweden could do the same, the Nordic countries could do the same. So one part of that was the pension reform. That was forced in 2005, saying that we can retire at the age of 63, but we have the right to work up to 68. So it also has a nice bonus. If you work longer, your accrual rates, your pension payment will increase about 4.5% each year. So it's worth of working longer, and it seems to have an impact on the employment rates of older people. After that, we had several more focused national program, one dealing, for example, with the learning and going older. So one attempt was then that we have to look also other generations, not only the oldest one. And therefore we established in the institute a large program called Life Course and Work. So here you have the generations. I think they maybe looked similar in Sweden than in Finland. You see these 3 generations in the middle. They are those who should be in a working life. And if they are in a working life, they can produce enough tax money that we can serve the youngest and also the oldest one. They both must have possibilities to have a decent living and good prospects. So what we find out is that this boat with 3 generations is leaking. So you have here the oldest one. Normally we look the oldest one and saying, okay, extending working life means that they have to work longer. Okay, that's a part solution only. I think we have to look all the generations to have a sustainable concept. And therefore what we find it out is that the young generation in Europe, not only in Finland, is integrating into the working life much too late, 2 to 3 years too late, because the training periods are getting longer and longer. We have to train and educate ourselves more and more before we are full members of the working society. For me, it doesn't make any sense, because the most important learning is on the job learning. If you look, for example, in the US, the situation, the integration age is 24 years. In Europe, 28 years. 4 years later. Question is why? Do we need 4 years more training in Europe? I don't believe it. So we have to change that structure. We are losing years. Then in the middle age group, we believe that they are in the best shape. But nowadays, if you will be laid off, you get an impression or experiences of the unemployed periods, and a full workability people, they have a huge difficulties to reintegrate back to the work life. In Europe, it takes in average 1 year before they are back again. So going out seems to be easy for the companies, but getting in again is difficult. And if you are 50 plus, it's a real challenge. So therefore, also the middle age groups do not have very solid work careers anymore. So we are losing there 1 year in average. And then we, oldest one, we are retiring too early. Putting that all together, we can calculate that we are missing about 5 to 6 productive years per capita in Europe. 5 to 6 years. So therefore, societies and countries have to take loan to get money for the health and social services because we are missing 5 to 6 years active employment in a society. All that means handling these 3 generations is an age management issue. We have to know how to manage that. And here we can look the situation in 3 different levels. We can look the individuals, we can look the enterprises, and then the society. Society meaning in this case, it's our government. So, in the individual level, it's easy to identify the problems. It's very often health-related problems when they are growing older, or competence problems as well. The enterprises are talking not of that, they are talking about productivity loss. They want to have so-called Olympic teams who are always 110% in capacity. And then we have the government here, and the government is worried about the early retirement, work disability costs. Actually, they are all talking the same, but using different wordings. Here in the middle part of the matrix, you can see the solutions. That's what we created for the Finnish national program. It's all done in a praxis, so it's not a theory. And I think the most important information here is that if we want to have that goal, less age discrimination, later retirement, lower unemployment, and lower healthcare cost, better national economy, higher welfare, the only way to come to that box is the vertical one. It has to start here by the individuals. The enterprises are here. Here is the implementation of the knowledge. It's here in enterprise level. And then we need a good policy, and combining these 2 blocks with good policy, we can reach that box on the right-hand corner. I think it's emphasizing the need to collaborate. So if we miss one of these partners, we cannot achieve good results. And I'm sad to say that in most of the European countries, this collaboration doesn't work pretty well. And the most crucial part where it doesn't work is the enterprise level. This is missing, more or less. So what we have seen during the decades is that there are clear targets and goals for the age management. It has to be started by awareness, because we have to increase our awareness level about aging matters. That's the only way to change our attitudes towards aging. And when we go so far to the attitudinal level, then it's possible that the managers can realize, okay, it is also my duty and I should implement it in a practice. It cannot be delegated for someone else outside, also not for occupational health services. Companies are very eager to do. No, it's the task for the managers and supervisors. And therefore, we should have in a company level, in a strategic level, we should have the age management strategy or a generation management strategy. Then we come to the toolbox, how to do that all, what is needed. We call it workability. Workability is therefore interesting and important because our productivity is fully dependent on our ability to work. Special attention should be given to the competence issues. I think you will discuss now during this session quite a lot of that. And then, of course, one of the most challenging part is how we should redesign the work so that every generation can be productive. And finally, we should have a respectful retirement, and we should be happy to retire also. So there are 8 targets, visions for the age management. So as I mentioned, it starts off the better awareness level. And here you see what are the topics what the enterprises should know and understand. And when we are running these age management, generation management training in the Netherlands, Germany, also in Austria, the 3-day courses, these are the topics in the age management training. What awareness should they have? So I will go more detail here in the workability issue soon, but also here are important issues, understanding what does it mean when we are growing older and we are getting some chronic diseases and should work further. What about aging and learning? We know that the learning is not dependent on age, but we know also that the learning process differs between the generation. Older learns differently than the younger, etc. So you can see that there is quite a lot of important issues for the training, and we have shown that as soon as you have a better understanding, something starts to happen also in a company level. It's also good to train the people, not only the foremen and managers, if you have a capacity for that. One interesting point is that if you ask the supervisors and manager, do you know what is mental growth? They have never heard it. Although mental growth is the success story of aging. You might know that it's only the physical capacity which will deteriorate with aging. The mental capacities, many cognitive functions remain about the same, and the social functions are improving. So actually, we are the same when we are older, but we are different in our strengths. So we are not getting worse, we are also getting better. And all these items, what you have here, are based on longitudinal studies, showing that happens. And it's so surprising to realize that we have a lot of myths and misunderstanding against that list, and we are using this stereotyping thinking. If you look at the best companies in the European Union, there is a database in Dublin, age management database, and they have about 200 companies in Europe, also about 10 Swedish companies, which have shown good age management policies. We can see, however, that also these best companies are different. And here in that level you can see that some of them are proactive, but most of them are problem solving, reactive. They do something when they have a problem, but they are not prepared for that. Secondly, their awareness level can be pretty different. So if you are here in a level of 1, we are tackling with problems of scarce resources. Here we are understanding already that age might also be a challenge. There might be some positive features we should perhaps utilize. And then we go in that level where the company should be, so that we are enhancing individual resources, promoting workability, integrational learning. We put the generations together working. Every generations do have their own strengths, and that's a learning process in every direction. And then, of course, the best is that we use the life course approach, having everything for all generations tailored. Because the youngsters need, for example, different management skills than the oldest. So, then I will go to the workability. This is the most important slide for you, ladies and gentlemen. This picture summarizes our understanding of human ability to work today. It's based on a huge amount of research, not only in Finland, worldwide, also based on the longitudinal studies. We wanted to make it as simple as possible. And therefore we built up a house, because everyone understands what a house is. This house has 4 floors. And the name of the house is workability. Okay. So the first floor is the health and functional capacity, physical, mental, and social dimensions. It's a base of everything. So the better the health is, the better standing to have the house. Second floor is the competence. And you know it very well. The work life is changing rapidly. New skills are demanded. So a lifelong learning is a necessity today in all jobs. So therefore, it's important also to invest on that. The newcomer here in the model is the third floor, where I do have my values, my attitudes, my motivation. This is crucial. If the third floor is working well, I have strengths. But these 3 lowest floors is not the workability, it's my resources. When we take now the 4th floor, this is the work. Everything what I'm facing every day in my workplace, work environment, work tasks, work in community, my colleagues, but also the management. The relation between my impression of my work and my resources is workability. So it's a question of fitting work and my resources. When they are nicely fitting, my workability will be okay. If not, the balance of the house is out, more or less. Therefore, you see here a staircase showing that these floors are interacting very strongly. They have an impact on each other. And the most active interaction is between the work and my values, attitudes, motivation. So the flow of positive experiences here from my work is also penetrating to that floor, but also the negative ones. Depending, is it positive or negative, the third floor will be loaded positively or negatively. In the third floor, you have a balcony, also coming from the research. And you can see that the balcony is there, therefore, that we can define and identify that there are 2 more dimensions having an impact on my balance, namely the family and my close community, intermediate social environment. Here in that part, I have all my hobbies, what I'm doing. It's understandable that they have all the lifestyle here. They have an impact on my health, but also especially to my values, attitudes, motivation. You know that the Y generation, the youngest generation today, they have their 300 Facebook friends here. And they can hardly do anything without the consensus with their Facebook friends. They have a huge effect on the balance. Family doesn't have so much power today than the networks of people, human networks. So therefore, if you want to have a nice balance, there are 4 factors every day at work, and then 2 outside, altogether 6. Therefore, it's understandable that to have a sustainable balance up to 65, 70, 75 years, need an adjustment all the time. Because when we are getting older, these 3 floors are changing, and you have seen also that the globalization, new technology, will change the 4th floor all the time. Therefore, getting a good balance, we have to do that together, so the employer and employee. This is the learning what we have got. So, how does it look now, the balance, when we are growing older? Here we have the age from 20 to 75, and you can see that there is a slight, rather linear decline by age. age. Here, after the age of 55 or so, you see the healthy worker effect. People are dropping out from the working life because of the chronic diseases, work disability issues, and then the statistics show an improvement, so it's fluctuating here. But the good result is that the mean value stay in a rather good level, excellent or good. So we could be satisfied, but the real thing is that one, if you look at the individuals. This is now the results of the small and mid-sized companies, about 700 employees and workers. And here you see now the huge spread of the people regarding their workability. So the youngsters are more homogeneous, but when you are over 45, you see that in the same age you might have a very low, a critical balance, and someone same age have the best possible. So now the question is why we have so huge differences between the people. It's important to understand that if people are falling down here in that critical level, it means that they will be granted with work disability pension in the coming years if you don't do anything. But the reason why they are here are not only coming from the 3 lowest floor of the house, more from the 4th floor. 60% of the reason are from the work and from the management. 40% only from the human side. Therefore, if you want to have a better fitting, we have to look the 4th floor, the work. For training, we are using a small house like that. It's a workability house, easy to understand. Everyone who is training the courses can get one. And very often the situation looks like that. This is the house. And then you should work until 67 or 76, whatever. So it's not possible. It's impossible. So building up a house, that's our task. And we can build it together. So the companies, we know they are in a difficult situation today because of the economical issues, but there are 3 strong drivers which change the 4th floor, namely globalization, new technology, and demographic change. They just have to see what is going on here in the operational environment because the clients are there and the competitors are there too. So therefore we have a continuous change in the 4th floor, reorganizing the companies and organizations. It has a consequence because if, as you can have seen in most of the countries, this growing pressure means that they have to rationalize. Rationalize means that they have to downsize. So work intensity increase among those who stay in the organization. They lay off people because that's the fastest way to get some sort of balance in the 4th floor. Or they do a merging. They believe that larger units are better than smaller ones. Or then they are outsourcing. And they are saving some money by doing that. That's what the companies are doing now as a coping strategy against demographic change, for example. It's a very negative one. It means that the 3rd floor will be loaded very negatively. Work dissatisfaction, trust is away, and it's difficult to believe that the people are very willing to work there. There's also then a pressure of the lifelong learning because if there is a major changes going every year here, for example in a technology industry, in a computer science, So it's a huge pressure for the older people. All that together means that there are some new risks in health. This continuous overloading means larger prevalence rates of psychosomatic disorders, depression, and other more severe health effects. Sickness absence rates increase, not decrease. So this is the situation where the older worker have to work today in many companies and organizations. And you can imagine if that's the case, they will never reach the retirement age, what is today the mandatory level, and not a longer work life either. So therefore, we have to promote the workability. And it means that we have to go back to the 4 floors of the house. We know what we should do here in the 1st floor. The target is that we have, let's say, a decent health, good health, and of course then our lifestyles, hobbies are important part of that, but also the health services. In Finland, we invest a lot of occupational health services, and that's the way we want to get this promotion as soon as possible for everybody. The 2nd floor is the training and learning. So here, the on-the-job training, as I mentioned before, is a very crucial issue. So work should be designed in a way that people can learn new things by working. That would be the optimal situation. But we have to also use for training the right didactics and also then the right pedagogic effects. The 3rd floor here is that one where we have our appreciation, trust, commitment, fair treatment. It's very crucial. If we don't have these, we don't have any positive situation in the 3rd floor. And in the 4th, there is a need to redesign the work so that every generation have a decent, good work. So if we do that, you can see that how important is that we have also the management in the picture. So that's the way we can have an increase in the workability with advancing age. Otherwise, without any actions, it will decline. Only health promotion is not sustainable. We have to work in the 4th floor. And we know that the return of investments is good. The money returns back. So it's not a problem for the company. They are the winner as well. So therefore, it's a good model because the employer and employee side can realize their wishes, and if they cooperate together, then we have a sustainable workforce. One more dimension coming recently from the 28-year follow-up is that my workability before retirement is very important for the rest of my life. We studied people when they were then 73, 85 years of age, and recognized that if you had an excellent and good workability before retirement, you had an independent living. This part means how many people have an independent living later on. 75% didn't need any services, were able to do what they wanted. Traveling, shopping, whatever. If you had moderate or poor workability, you see that that's about 45% only for ladies, and that's about 40% for the men. So investments in workability should be done during the working life. That's the best guarantee for a sustainable and nice life afterwards. So finally, I think we should understand that we need a new type of a new sort of working life. And the new paradigm is that the 3rd floor should be positively loaded. We call it work well-being. I have to feel respect, trust, fair treatment, and support of the colleagues and supervisors whenever needed. If that's not the case, then I'm just working, and that means that my workability will decline. Looking back again, what are the key factors then? You see now that the two lowest floors are telling if I can. I need health resources and I need also competencies. This is can. I can work. Third floor is if I will work. And the fourth floor is answering the question if I may, if others want me to. So we need all these three things happening before we can have longer work lives. So, as I said, my subjective picture about my work should be positive. So, ladies and gentlemen, one more slide telling that the government is also responsible to give the framework for the house, and you can see that here is quite a lot of different issues what government should be doing. And this is the story what I wrote then for the Swedish government as well. So I think the learning is here that we should make the positive reforms first, negative later. I think it's very, very good message to the politicians, because people do it together if you start with positive measures. But they won't follow you if you start with negative ones. Negative would be that someone is saying, you have to work until 75, dot. This is negative. Better is to say, what should be done first that you can work to 75. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, last slide. This is our workability from Monday to Friday. Here you have the more experienced people, over 50 plus. And you can see here in Monday, because the older ones, they have had a very pleasant weekend, good sleeping, relaxing, and they are storing energy for the coming work week. Then it goes to the Thursday. It's today. Today is Thursday. And you feel already a little bit tired, and you are looking direction weekend. Good heaven's sake, when it's coming. And because our commitment is very huge, we are giving the best of us for every week to the employer. We want to show how good we are. And therefore, as you can see here in the picture, it's very understandable that the people cannot find directly back home. That's especially the case of the men. They are too tired for that. They might have to make a side trip. Here are the youngest generations, our children, working, and they have had an unforgettable weekend. They have lost all these floors of the house. And it takes about 1 day to figure them out again, make it in a good order. And then in Tuesday, they must perhaps ask what I really did. But then, as you can see, when Friday comes, they understand that the life starts again. No problem, I can do everything you need as quickly as possible. So they have a best possible workability. For the company or organization, of course, this is quite demanding situation, because Monday and Friday should be as good days than the others. Therefore, we are saying that if you want to start a good policy for generation, start it in a Wednesday, when they are exactly in the same form, and they understand each other the best. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Ilmarinen, for this interesting presentation. And you really added something to the discussion we have had earlier today. We have talked a lot about the connection between research and practice, but you also show that when you go to practice, you need an integrated perspective. That's very important to get all the pieces in the house together.
Right.
And for those of you who want to know a little bit more, we have some books down here you can look at in the break. And I just want to say, with the same book everybody else got in Swedish, so you have to read in Swedish.
Right.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.